Hey guys, I've been thinking, I wonder what JD Blair's been up to. He was a super early influence on my playing and my setups, and he's just a gnarly drummer who's kept a super low profile over the years. Let's check in with the groove regulator himself. And we are about to be joined by the legendary JD Blair, the groove regulator. So excited. Yeah, here we go. Oh, snap. There he is. What's up, man?
Thank you so very much for the invite. And as an old man who's trying to learn how to work these things, this is the funniest thing in the world. Like, okay, he's talking. I don't see myself. Did I mess up already? So I'm so grateful that it's working. And thanks again for the invite. I appreciate it.
Of course. Now, I know you're a lifelong Steelers fan. Did you theme your backdrop to be Steelers yellow or?
Yes. That's my wife's idea, actually, believe it or not.
I love it. I think that's great. Well, okay, so I know we've been talking for a few months now, but so you mainly came into my life because of the Wooten Live in America album. A friend of mine, a good buddy of mine, Dash, was like, "Hey, man, I know you're a drummer," because he was on the opposite. He was into orchestra. He played viola. Okay. He says, "There's this guy who I really dig his stuff with this band called the Flettones, but he also does solo work, and I really think you would dig his drummer." And he let me listen to this record, and I was like, I never heard drumming like that before. You were using splashes where I thought a crash would be, and I was just like, I was hearing, it was amazing. So I want to say thank you so much for being such a massive influence on so many people like myself and others.
To God be the glory. Thank you guys back. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you was, how did you get started in drumming? I mean, was it a family thing or was it something that you just kind of found along the way?
The earliest I remember is in the mid-'60s. We were stationed in the Philippines, and I remember I'm not supposed to touch my dad's stereo, right? So you know where I'm going with this, right? The James Brown LP was out at Live at the Apollo.
Come on.
Man, and so I had these Lincoln Logs. And you know the brown ones and the green slats. Well, the green slats would give a nice little pop on the furniture. And Dad would be out on post, and I'd slip and go get the record and play it and do all that, and that's where that started, man.
Wow.
Mid-'60s.
So how long did you have to bug them? I want to say, so Brammy 48 right there. That's my buddy Brian. He plays for Toby Mac. Awesome drummer. He's also a huge JD Blair fan.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I'm humbly grateful. Thank you.
So for me, I was blessed to be gifted a drum set when I was about 13. But how did you get a drum set? Did you have to bug them a lot, or how'd that happen?
Going into ninth grade, my father bought me a Ludwig snare drum. I think it's the Acrolite, I think.
Yeah.
And it's sitting over there. That was the very first one. And I had a great instructor in Mr. Bob Backus, what was then Lee High School in Huntsville, Alabama. I had great classmates, Billy Woods, Kelly O'Neill from the KO band, and just a lot of talented cats. That was a championship caliber program. Okay. So I hit the ground running from day one. And our high school drumline was taught by John Lindbergh.
Okay.
From Norfolk State University, MDFS. I got to hook you up with them cats, man. Went from Lehigh to NSU, had a great time. It's like family. We still talk to this day, and put in a couple of years up there. And then because of the economy and all that stuff, I went back to Huntsville, Alabama to go to Alabama A&M University. Okay. And I didn't march, but I played in the jazz band. And I had then switched my major to telecommunications. So it's just been a blessed ride, and
Sure.
grateful for all you cats for even being interested.
Well, okay, so after college, I mean, you're in Alabama. What brings you to Nashville?
You're not going to believe this. I passed the Air Force Band audition.
Nice,
And
nice.
I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps and get in 20-something years.
Mm-hmm.
But they gave me a year before I had to show up, because they was like, well, we want you to be sure you want to do this. So you got a year. And I was saying to myself, man, we can do this now. And on the drive back from Montgomery, Judy had suggested that we come up to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I had played with Take Six, who was then Alliance, the sister group, A Special Blend.
Okay.
And they had come up and gotten stuff established. And so we decided we'd move up. And I thought, yeah, this will be a quick year, and then I'm going to go be a flyboy and call it a day. And man, I came up here, and my first gig was Lyle Lovett and his large band. And
Wow.
got in the studio with Mervin and those guys. I think the first tune I cut with them was with Donna McElroy, called Come Sunday.
Okay.
And God's good.
Well, okay, so I mean, you came to town. How long were you in town? I mean, were you doing the club scene? I mean, take us from Nashville to Lyle Lovett, because that still is a great gig, but back then he was huge.
Right. Came into town, and of course it's funny because the Wooten Cats were here. And
Right.
it's like this perfect storm where we hadn't seen each other since the Norfolk State days.
Mm-hmm.
And we just wound up being here in Nashville at the same time and started playing. And it was a good mix. And so one gig led to another. And Matt McKenzie was
Okay.
a bass player for Lyle at the time. And I remember being at a gig, and he came and sat in. I didn't know I was being auditioned.
Wow. That's the best, because there's no nerves.
And next thing you know, I get a call from Lyle's management, and I thought it was a joke. I was actually about to hang up because I had seen Lyle and the hair and all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
man, he played this joke on me. It was true. And he had a catalog, I think maybe 6 or so CDs that I had to learn, because it's like, hey, we're going in cold. Know this, know this, know this. So I charted up everything, and we went and had some rehearsals, and that was in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
And yeah, it was fun.
Okay, well, so that brings me to my next question. I know we both are fans of charts when possible, and I remember seeing you perform with Shania live, and you had your charts there. Now, I wanted to ask you from the horse's mouth, was it like a fail-safe just in case, or were the parts that specific?
Everything was specific. I was given Mutt Lange's blessings to interpret.
Okay.
And because I was smart enough not to take advantage of that, in playing these country gigs, it's Paul Lime, Eddie Bears,
Yeah.
on the records during my time.
Right.
So I had gotten comfortable with playing, the tom, kum, 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 that type of stuff. And it just became a part of the vocabulary. So when I charted out the songs, I saw those patterns, and I was like, well, I understand it, so let's do it. And
yeah.
I played, and I remember we were at Lake Placid, and my boy was like, came out, I was like, so JD, that thing you're doing, man, that thing between the back feet. I was like, the funk, that swing. He's like, yeah, don't do that. Here, 2 and 4, man, 2 and 4. And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I gonna do this? Because everything for me was that P-funk thing.
Right, yeah.
And he's like, take them in-betweens out, baby. And here's another funny thing. I didn't know who AC/DC was, right?
Oh, wow,
I
wow.
had no clue. I had no clue about nothing.
Yeah. Well, see, what's funny about AC/DC, okay, so I grew up in Tulsa and we have the Gap Band, right?
Right.
So that, brakum, 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 brak, boom,
Yeah.
without Gap, you wouldn't have the Minneapolis thing. You wouldn't ever had Prince. You wouldn't ever had seriously. Oh. Dang it, Kurt. Okay, do you know Kurt Biscara? I'm sure you know who he is. He's watching. Kirky B, help me, bro. Who was your first gig with, man? Help me. Prince's protege, Morris Day.
Morris Day.
Come on. Okay. Yeah. That there we go. There he is.
Hi.
Yeah. So, but you slightly straighten out that brakum, and that's AC/DC. Right? Well, so, I love how that stuff all comes back around. And what's wild is that Dave Grohl, from legendary Dave Grohl from Nirvana and everyone else, he actually gave it up to the Gap Band, the mighty Gap Band, and said when he first coming in with that lick for "Smells Like Teen Spirit," he just took it and did his little White Boy Virginia version, and then and I love that full circle stuff. Okay, so once you dip out of that gig, what happens next?
Well, I got to finish telling you about the backbeat. Mutt and I had a talk in between the rehearsal hits, and I said, "Well, look, I can lose the charts, but because of my and playing with Vic and the Wootens, where we just create on the spot. If I'm playing and it's that rush, and you just might get hit by the spirit, and them lights all on you, and I might do a feel that ain't supposed to be there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he understood what I was talking about, and he paused, and here he is. Keep the charts, man. And he walked away. And
see, there you go.
That's how that happened. So when I play, I've also put vocal cues in.
Okay.
With the click to confirm where I'm at coming into the second chorus or whatever like that. And I've been very fortunate because if I didn't have those charts, it wouldn't be as legit.
Yeah.
Because this times, man, those cats, that was a killing band, dude. I'd never been around a band like that ever before in my life, where everybody just specialized in playing sounds and Mutt Lange, he is extremely particular on how sounds are made, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I have all these great old issues of Modern Drummer. Oh, Kurt Biscaris, that's the way you do so you don't get docked. Yeah. Dude, now, JD, do you know Kirky B? Do you know him?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. See,
he's a monster.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, how do you balance going between something so funky like the Wootens and then something straight like Shania or Lyle or somebody else?
It's just music.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Nothing we all know that as timekeepers, we want to groove,
right,
and be aware of tone, and get along with everybody in the band. So whether you're playing funk, classical, whatever, bluegrass, it's the principle to me remains the same.
Let's fast forward a little bit. Tell me about the audition process, because I've heard some stories about how insane auditions can be. So can you share some stories about auditioning for bands?
Well, with the Twain gig, I went through three processes with them.
Okay.
And I thought that was a joke too when I got a call. And come to find out, when he said, well, look, we're going to fly you up, blah, 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 and you'll need to have these songs. So I had to go over to, I think it was like a Walmart, and I got all their CDs, and I flew out the next day. So I'm charting. I know the songs they want. I'm on the plane I sat in the back of the plane with my charts, little Walkman
Yeah, yeah.
buds, and I'm doing air drums, trying to get this stuff under my belt. And it it I didn't expect to get the gig because I know everybody out there is like, you hear, man, you great, you killed it, man, that was awesome, that's the best we heard all day, and
Right.
then you're like, cricket, cricket, cricket,
Yeah.
cricket, and
Yeah.
wonder what happens. And what I always got, well, they decided to go with somebody else, and I was always
Yep.
wanting to know, who is they?
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
is they?
Because
So
they're mean.
yeah, and so I went up there and landed in upstate New York, and I thought, you're in the city, you're gonna ride over to some place, do this, turn around, come back home. I was supposed to come back home that night. The driver says, "Are you hungry?" I was like, "No, I'm good." I was like, "Well, he's like, we got a bit of a drive, so we're gonna stop at such and such." Dude, that was a long drive into like the boonies of nowhere land.
Oh,
There's
wow.
like this gated place and long drive up, and there's a tour bus in front of this place. I walk in, I was like, "Dude, this is a spread." And so I met everybody. She wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I played, and Mutt said, "Would you like to stick around? And if you would, we get you to play a couple more songs." I'm like, "Hey, this is a good sign." I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Sure.
So
Yeah.
the bass player Andy C. Sean, he was talking to me, and we were getting the feel. And I charted this stuff up. We played that. Okay, so I go back home the next day. We'll let you know. So I'm waiting, waiting, waiting. I get a call back. This time she's there. We play and do that. I
You have to
go
come
back.
back to New York?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, okay,
I come
okay.
back home, and so now I get a call to come back in. We're gonna give this a shot. So we're rehearsing like crazy. I think it was like 6 months in the middle of
Wow.
nowhere, secluded. That's all we did, bro. And so now we come back into the springtime, I think it was, and I had like a Crook and Chase or something television show. That was my third audition live.
Hmm. Wow.
So we did the sound check, and as soon as I finished sound check, I went outside, and management called me. It's like, basically offered me the gig after
Wow.
that. So I went through 3 shots, and man, that gig changed my life, and I'm so grateful to God Almighty that I was blessed to do that, and I'm grateful to the Twain crew for being colorblind. But man, when you looked at that band,
Mm-hmm.
they just wanted the people who could play the parts the way Mutt wanted it played. And
Yeah.
so we got an Asian cat, we got a sister in there, we got Canadians, we got Australians, we got a brother. It wasn't planned to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a great moment to learn and be blessed.
Sure. Well, I mean, I remember I was 18 the first time I went to Forks, and I hear you. Well, at first I see you, and you're like a foot taller than everybody else, and I'm a tall dude, and you're a lot taller than me. And I remember going, okay, I'm looking at you from behind, and I can see the goggles, and I'm like, this dude is wearing a full basketball warm up uniform. It's 104 degrees outside. There's almost no way that's not JD.
I loves me some heat, bro.
Bro, I said, obviously he's not worried about it. And I walked up, and you were super, super nice. I was like, man, I'm just such a fan of yours. But I remember seeing, you performing at the Super Bowl, going like, who the heck is that? I remember so vividly like that thing. But I wanted to ask, when you first moved to town, what was your gear like du jour? What was your kit that you were rocking? And then what made you switch once you started like gigging out for real?
Dude, I had a little cheap Aria 18-inch bass drum and snare, hi-hat, ride. And I would pack a kit at the time in a little Isuzu iMark.
Yeah, there we go.
And I had a gig with Joseph Wooten.
Was this the Wooten Wednesdays over at Third Lindsley?
It was at the place, the Grapevine, I think it is.
Okay.
Which is across from the Rock Block, if I got that name correct. but it was cold, man. It was cold, and I'm like, bro, I ain't about to be taking no kid out.
Yeah.
And it's going back and forth. So that's where the kick and snare started because of the cold weather. And I thought, well, I better be really good at making this thing feel good.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
just coming in with a kick and snare. And man, every time I did that, I was like, you know what? I didn't even miss the toms. That was really cool. It felt great. I was like, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And when you play with the Wooten gig, everybody can chop so hard. I'm like, dude, I can just sit back here and just play time and be good. And then that silence thing, it's kind of from the Miles Davis mindset. It worked perfectly for what I was doing with the Wootens. You say, and then when it's your time to speak, you might just be quiet and let the room speak. And just going like this, and if you're grooving hard enough, the room is going like this while you ain't playing nothing, man. So I had a good old time with that stuff.
Well, that brings me to my next point. When I finally started like seeing photos, because I had to look online, I think it was jdblair.net, I think was the old site, right? And so I remember going on there, and it was, you couldn't just see the photo, they were flashing through. It was like, it cycled through like every 2 or 3 seconds. And I'm like, what the frick? So I'm like, it'll come back around. It's fine, you know? And I remember seeing your setups and going like, is he really just playing no crap, just a splash? And so I did that. I went and bought and so at the time I was really, really into it. So I bought a 6-inch A custom splash because I knew you played sixes. You had a 6 and an 8, I think.
Yeah,
and I was like, good enough for JD, good enough for me. So I was gigging around my hometown, set of hi-hats, one ride. I didn't have a rivet ride. I couldn't afford that. But and with the splash, because I was doing gigs in like coffee shops and like really small, you know, but it was funky. And it was, you know, I'd go and play jazz or Latin music. But I remember going like, if he can make this just the walls sweat, if he can make it feel that good, there's something to that. And so like, then I heard the term pocket, because like, you know, there was that one little thing y'all did. Honestly, y'all were the first time I ever heard that. It was, can't hold no goo. If you ain't got no pocket. And I was like, and I had to go ask, I was like, the frick is pocket? What does that mean? And you know, it was one of those eye-opening experiences. I was like, okay, so I don't have to be the chops king. Okay, I can just play this stuff and people will dig it and hire me because I can make them sound better. So yeah. And what's so funny is that I get messages all the time about like little mini sets, man. Okay, so Dr. Giovanni 25 says JD changed the game for many of us. Wow, look at that. Yeah, he freaking did. And I'm telling you, man, you know, it's like I have gotten so many people hitting me up going like, hey, why do you do the kick and snare thing? And it's like a lot of cats on a completely different, you know, frequency, we're seeing like Questlove, right? He was and I'm like, no, my guy was JD. He was the dude that was doing it, you know. And so I'm telling you, man, you've influenced so many more cats than you realize. And we've talked off this about it. I'm like, man, like you don't understand. Like you are still talked about in this town with such reverence, man. And so I'm so, you know, so honored that you are back online and people can see you and see what you're doing, man, you know. But I'm telling you, man, like it really does mean a lot that you were able to do this for us. And hopefully this, you know, we get to see more of what you got cooked up. Back to the small kit thing. When you moved on to say like the Shania gig, I'm sure endorsements became a lot more acquirable. So when you, because I know you've been with Peisty for the longest time, forever, right? So can we go down the list of, you know, what made you go with the brands you did at the time? I know you're with some different brands now, but like, did they approach you? Did you approach them?
With what I'm using now, Aquarian drumheads, love those guys. It's been that way from day one. Peisty cymbals, the same from day one. I use innovative percussion sticks.
Yeah.
They're downtown. I go by and visit the factory every once in a blue moon and holler at cats. And let's see, kick port. I like kick port. Those in my bass drums. At this point in my life, I've endorsed Pearl, Yamaha, and Gretsch.
Right.
So now that I've been dormant, and especially COVID and all this stuff, this has affected everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And so the companies can't afford to, dole out these endorsements and cats like me cooling out at the crib. Mm-hmm. So I respect that, but I'm at a point now to where I've got enough stuff I can just play what I want. So like when I'm here at the crib tracking, I might grab the Ludwig snare drum. I might grab a Pearl snare drum. But most of the time I'm going to be using my custom-made stuff because it has its own unique sound. My favorite is the Yamaha snare drum, the green one with the gold-plated hardware. That's from Norfolk State University. Behold the green and gold. I got a wooden hoop on it. You can get a whole nother thing when you're playing quiet and just really well.
So next question. Where did you come up with the 8x12 snare size?
Dennis Chambers had his drum out, right, with Pearl.
Okay.
And I liked the way it sounded. And I didn't want to bug him for his snare drum. So I was like, well, maybe, just maybe if I ask, instead of 7, I'll go 8.
Yeah.
And I have 30 snares underneath mine.
Okay.
So that's what the trick is for that. And die-cast hoops are wooden. And I got Opus way back. They were based in Virginia Beach. They made me a snare drum to my specs. So they were the first ones to do that. And Uncle Louie was over here with his wife a couple of days ago, and we went out. And I gave him a custom-made drum. It was one of my first Gretsch snare drums. And it's like, when you croak, you can't take this stuff with you.
Sure, yeah, I get that.
And it's like cool people, like, I got something for you. Off camera, we'll talk about this and hook up so I can hook you up. But I am so grateful to you, man.
Man, what?
And that's all I have to say about that.
Oh man, well, I tell you, it's so crazy. Like in the last, honestly, like in the last 6-8 months, man, I've been able to connect with some like heavy cats that were like super, super influential on me. And it's always been organic. It's just been like I feel like I just was like, oh snap, JD. Like I commented on a thing, and then like 3 days later, you just straight up just called me, and we talked for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, I look at my phone, and it's like JD was like, what? It's just I'm so blessed to hopefully like bring you back in like the minds of some cats, because like unfortunately, especially with COVID and a lot of people who just like, because tours stopped, everything freaking stopped. A lot of touring homies realized that if they didn't have an online presence, they just kind of were off the radar. So I'm like, man, please come back. Please post those really cool old photos, because I can't find them nowhere. And it's just it's so cool that I now have like a channel to be able to like talk with you about stuff and like let other people get hip to like what's up. So my next question is, when you get out on your first major big gig, what brings you from doing the small bass drum and the 12 to all of a sudden the big double toms and so how did you decide to make the jump? Was it a sonic thing, or were you just needing to have like a visual thing?
It was a sonic thing.
Okay.
It was visual. A kit that's, I guess, more thought of as a jazz setup wouldn't work in the rock band. It could work, but you have those traditional sounds like that AC/DC Mutt Lang gut bucket. That is an Indugu snare drum. Jeff Chonas was my drum tech. Great guy. To this day, all these years later, that snare drum hasn't been, I use it, but I haven't changed the head because it's got the Vinny head on it, and it's got
Okay.
like, it's like really durable, and it's
Yeah.
tuned so low. Cats like, man, you got that snare? You got that snare?
Yeah.
Some call it the Twain snare, some call it the Mutt snare. It's Ndugu snare drum. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been tuned specifically per mutt. Man, it's huge. It's huge.
Man, I have an old issue of Modern Drummer with Paul Lime talking about tracking on Shania's first couple records. And I've reread it like dozens of times because it's so fascinating. He's like, yeah, I brought like 80 snares. And then I would try to change out the snare for like a piccolo. And Mutt's like, I don't want that cheap snare. Give me the, you know.
He'd say it. We talked about it because he heard my record.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it sounds like a toy, man.
Yeah, yeah. and see, what's funny to me is that like, so coming up, my generation, nobody was playing beefy snares. Everybody had it all cranked up. So like, obviously, like I've always loved that sound. And like when I first heard, especially your sound on the Live in America record, I couldn't. I was like, how tight is that snare to make that pop sound? Because it was above tight, like it was but it sounded so great. But then I would go and like I'd say I love that sound, but then I love the beefy sound from like the 70s and 80s too. And so it's beautiful to now see guys on every avenue, girls on every avenue, be able to have such a wide berth of sound. I love the beefy sound. I love that. It can't fit everything, but boy, when you want it, it's like, ugh, that's beautiful. And this is way before Big Fat Snare Drum. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, you've also not just played with Lyle, Take Six, the Wootens, Shania. You've also done gigs like with like Natalie McMaster. Now, I'm a huge fan of Celtic music. My mom's half Scottish, so like I love Celtic music. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, so because you've been able to just do and just kind of dip in and out like Vinny style of different genres and gigs. So that was kind of like a step in the opposite direction of gear wise because you went back to kick and snare. Did she ever have an issue with that, or was it just like, let me just showcase her?
There was no issue with it. My job is to play time.
Yeah.
And then in the show, everybody gets a moment to shine, and that's when you can do whatever. But I have great respect for cats who can chop for days. But at the same time, that's not the language that I've chosen to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from a school where it's just backbeat and play time and make the time feel good. So her husband knew me from the Twain tour. Leahy opened up for Shania on the first run, and we hung out. Man, that is a crazy talented family. And he suggested to Natalie to give me a shout. So
nice.
I got a call, and I was like, okay, well, send me the music. Let me check it out. And so I'm listening to this stuff, and I was like, well, why not? Let's go learn something. So went up there and went into rehearsals and got her jargon, her terminology for beats that she heard.
Mm-hmm.
And just had a good old time playing Celtic music, man.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. Oh no, it's super fun. And like well, I remember seeing that. I was like, oh, that's something completely different. And it just that was one of the things that was so unique about your career is that like, I love it. That seems weird. Victor Wooten. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Shania, what the frick? Are you serious? And so it's like it was always you just kept going and you're like, sure, we'll go there. Sure, we'll go there. And I love that. And I honestly it probably was one of the reasons why I've kind of like modeled my career. I've not had a career. I've just played for a while. I haven't quit. But like I don't shy away from different genres, you know, like and it's like I love it when people are able to genre hop, you know what I mean? And still somehow retain like their thing, their vibe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've always wanted to know this. I'm sorry, how did your nickname come about?
When I moved to town, I wanted to brand myself. And this is God's honest truth. That little cheap aria drum,
Mm-hmm.
it had a black head. And I had some stickers like, you go to Home Depot and you peel them off and make words. Well,
Yeah.
I had some. I didn't have enough to spell my name. It's a true story. So I just went J period D period Blair. And I thought, well, it works for J.R. Robinson. It might work for me, and it stuck. Now, the groove regulator, Young Guns,
Mm-hmm.
regulators, I just put groove in front of it, and there you go. Now you know.
Nice. Wow. Man, that's because I remember seeing like groove regulator. What the frick does that mean? But like branding yourself, like that was so ahead of the curve here in town. Now it's super common, but it's just like you were doing this. People that are just listening don't really understand like what Nashville used to be like. I tried to do my research before I came, so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew about yeah the Eddies and the Pauls, but also knew about the Lonnie Wilsons and the oh gosh, I mean the late great Larry London. I mean
Oh, yeah,
all those like
yeah.
heavy cats. This was all pre social media. There wasn't even online when
Right.
you first came. So I mean, did you find it difficult? Or did word kind of spread organically? Like, hey, there's this dude in town. He can freaking.
It's my understanding that we were making so much noise that cats, A-team cats were coming out to the gigs like the Wooten Brothers, that
Yeah.
thing. We were blazing so hot, man. Cats were coming out to check that out. And while I was still in Huntsville, uh, we had a cool band down there called Rhapsodon. Daryl Tibbs, we were
Yeah.
talking earlier today. He's like, man, all these years ago, we would have been getting ready to make some money tonight because the place would just be packed, standing room only. And Noise got up to Nashville. And Jim Horn and his crew came down and checked us out. I got a gig doing some session stuff from cats that heard about us here and drove down to the club and checked it out. So we were blessed to do some things back then. And, you know, I wouldn't change a thing.
I mean, what year did you officially come to Nashville?
I want to, geez, I think 92.
Okay.
And then,
Man, that was right when everything was really starting to hit.
yeah, yeah.
That's so sick. Okay, so I have to ask, how was the Super Bowl? I mean, how? Because this was back when that was live though, right?
Yeah. Uh, I was more concerned about getting out in one piece because the other team was losing,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew they could be a little testy. That was my concern for real,
Wow.
And then I was disappointed that the Steelers weren't there. I was like, of all times, the Bills played the Super Bowl, the Steelers ain't in it. So, it was a hoop, and as you know, it's business as usual. You don't see the glam and all the stuff because it's your job.
Yeah.
You gotta be in a lobby. You gotta leave at such and such time. You gotta go and check the wardrobe, and then you gotta go do the sound check, and then you leave the sound check, and then you gotta go eat, and then you gotta be on call for anything that might go down. You might have to get called to come back in. And then you gotta be in your spot, getting ready for the hit. Once the hit's over, then you can kind of settle down and take it all in. But all that stuff, man, uh, it just happened, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. I've played some arenas, and I've played,
Ooh.
but what I'm saying is, how do you I guess internalize your nerves when you're in a situation like that? Because I was talking with my wife yesterday. I still get nervous right before I play because it means I care. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't get nervous, I feel like it probably mean I was just like, all right, let's go make the donuts. Let's foam this in. Whereas if I get like the little butterflies, I'm like, okay, because this matters. Like what I'm doing, I care if it goes well, if it doesn't. I've done a couple TV things, but I've never done anything like that. How do you deal with nerves? The lights go down and the click goes off or whatever. Like, what are you thinking in moments like that?
Well, for me, I can't imagine doing anything without, crediting my creator.
Mm-hmm.
And my journey has been one where I bug my creator a lot. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm in his ear a lot.
yeah.
And the cool thing is out of 61 years of being on this planet, he hadn't allowed me to fail at anything. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't see him starting. So what I can share with you is that before getting ready to hit the gig, I'm in the other place, and it's like you have this calm. Hey, I'm prepared. All that's blocked out. I'm waiting for that click to come on and making
Yeah,
sure I can see my charts. It's showtime,
yeah.
and just run until it's time to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, go shut down, cool out, have a snack, meal, whatever you're gonna do to be comfortable. But yeah, man, and I've been doing it for so long.
Right.
And like I said, I started at a high clip in the high school band. I didn't have time to get nervous because
Yeah.
I didn't know any better.
You know, I know we're both fans of Steve Jordan and like what
Oh
he
yeah.
does. I had this old issue of Modern Drummer of his. I want to say it's from '84,
Okay.
where it's him describing getting the SNL gig at 18, and he said he was so into what he's doing that he didn't really have time to reflect of going like, wow, millions of people are watching this. He was just so focused on, I have to get this gig and just nail it to the wall. And then
That's
later,
it.
yeah, later he talks about it was him, Paul Schaefer, Will Lee, and Hiram Bullock. That was the band. That was the world's most dangerous band with Letterman, and they talk about the show where James Brown took over. And I had the pleasure of getting to ask him this in a clinic. I've heard the story 1,000 times, but nobody else had. I've read it. I could probably quote it to you. But I said, can you tell us about the James Brown show? And he went on like a 30-minute tangent. It was so beautiful. But he said we all had been waiting our entire lives to play with James. So we were so on that we
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
scared him. And then rejuvenated his career. They bumped all the guests. They said, we're going to more with James Brown. So it went from a 8-minute song to like a 45-minute musical set. He even went up and played piano. But I remember going like, he's going bum, 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 bum. Like they knew all the hits, and they were just. I remember going like, that is in one of those moments where you're so hyper aware of what's happening that it's like you can't mess up at that point. Those are rare, really rare moments, but like that's beautiful. So I imagine it's kind of like what you when you go into that zone where you're like, got my charts, got my gear, I prayed, I'm centered, let's go, man.
And riding on top of what you said about the world's most dangerous band, dude, I was playing like gigs in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the little bars and stuff, and they got the TVs on. Bro, when that intro came on, I had to be in front of the TV because, man, that pocket and that sound, man, that just was like, had to hear
Yeah.
it.
I got to meet Steve, and I actually got the pleasure of jamming with him once. And I remember going like, this dude has been playing with the heaviest of heavy since he was 18. Like at a certain point, you probably just kind of have to go, eh, you know,
I would
you,
imagine so.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that is so crazy. Okay, so another question I had was, because I know you're a family man just like myself. How were you able to balance having a home life, raising children with being gone and being a touring guy?
If you get the gig, it's a job. If you want to feed your family, you got to go to work. So if everybody in the house understands that, uh, Judy was and is a trooper. My daughter was born, and I was on a bus the next day. And then when we came to Nashville, my first outing was 6 months. So it's like if you can do that, you can pretty much do anything. As players, and I'm pointing at you, you know what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then your other half has to be patient enough and willing for this stuff to work out.
Right.
For it to work out. So I ain't gonna lie, I've enjoyed being at the flat. This inflation and COVID and all this stuff. For everybody who's out there, all 8 of y'all, I've got to get back on the saddle. Thus the, social media and all this.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I have a spot on Bandcamp.
Okay.
And it's JD Blair, the Groove Regulator. I've been putting out some tracks there. Are you on Bandcamp?
I'm not.
Why not?
Because I don't freaking make music. That's why.
But you can, right?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure I could probably figure it out. But I
You
tell
can
you
do
what,
some beats. Dude,
yeah.
I heard you playing on your stand-up kit, which was beautiful, by the way.
Oh,
You
thank you.
could record that, man, and put some beats up. And the cool thing about Bandcamp is that you keep 80% of your
Okay.
sales, bro. And it's
Cool.
just like that. I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to shut up. I redid Oh How I Love Jesus.
Okay.
It was a part of the video clip that was up. I put 6 mixes up today.
Well, okay, so send me the link, and I'll post the link in my story so people can check it out.
Awesome sauce, thank you.
Yeah. You can make enough for a nice dinner or something.
I'll do it if you promise to get on and
Man, I've heard of Bandcamp for years, and I've never even bothered to look at what it is. I just knew bands had it. Okay, so one of the last questions I have for you is, what's some of the best advice you were given by some of your mentors coming up?
basically, in a nutshell, just do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Do your job, stay out of trouble. And that can tie into when I first came to town. I was with Shelby Lynn and the Swing Kings, and she was doing auditions and everything. And there would be some killing cats coming in playing, and I'm just like, dude, this cat would be good. Well, a veteran band cat knew who played. It's like, yeah, but that's a bad fit. I'm saying, bad fit. Oh well, whatever. So now we're on the tour bus riding, and I ask about all that because I was just wondering.
Sure.
And it's like, well, look, you can be the greatest player in the world, but if your attitude sucks, you didn't get along with people. You think about it, the band becomes your second family.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the tour bus, you're at the airport, you're at the hotel, you're at the venue. It's another family. And if you got somebody in the group that's irritable, it's a nightmare for everybody. It's like a cancer. Yeah. One person spreads just bad vibes from person to person. So I get that now, and that's what I would encourage everybody else that's doing this stuff. Just be a competent musician, be nice to people, and just do your job.
Final question. When you're playing with an artist, how much interaction on average do you actually get with them off stage?
Name an artist in particular.
Okay, so obviously you actually knew the Wooten, so probably more. But say, so with a Lyle or a Shania, do you ever see him off stage, or is it pretty much, oh hey, and then have a great show?
I've run into Lyle when he's come to town to play. We speak, and that's cool. Shania, before COVID, we flew out to go check out the show. I had just done 6 tracks for her here at the crib. That was really cool. And so if we need to contact each other, we know how to do that. Mm-hmm. Shelby, I guess she's in California somewhere. I haven't spoken to her in years. Natalie's busy being a mom, but I speak to Xavier Leahy. He's X-Man. He's a wicked musician. And then there's Aaron Leahy, who I did the co-writes with for Druthers. You haven't heard the Druthers track, have you?
I don't think so.
Oh my Lord, I'm gonna hook you up, man. But it's a cross between Celtic music
Mhm.
and funk.
It's crazy how similar they actually are.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I remember seeing you. She's like, "Oh, you're out currently touring with her." I was like, "Oh, who is she?" And I looked at her. I was like, "Oh, it's Celtic music. That's dope." Oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, yeah. It's just change a fiddle for a bass, and you're freaking you're there.
I was even taking some step lessons from those cats. Kind of ties into our traditional rudiments.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you play drums, you can probably tap
Hmm.
because it's the same concept, and that was a lot of fun. But my feet started the arches started sinking, and the shoes got too tight after a while, so I had to let that go.
There's a reason why they start like with kids.
Yeah.
So their feet are rock solid by the time they get up to a certain age. Yeah, like I said, like I'm a fan of a little bit of everything. Some
Mm-hmm.
of the greatest drummers that ever freaking lived, from Buddy Rich, Steve Gadd, Sammy Davis Jr.
Yep.
Very, very talented dancers, tap dancers specifically, and then they just kind of transferred it and were able to do that. But yeah, Celtic dance is a whole different thing.
Yeah, with
They're
the arms are straight down. You can
yeah, yeah.
when I do mine, I feel my grip and I have to move and all that. It's like you can't do that if you want to be a Celtic dancer, bro. I was like, okay.
They're not ready for the Black Irish.
Hey, it is what it is, man. And funk is its own reward.
There you go. There you go. Well, JD, I feel like that is the best place to end it. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for doing this, man. This has meant so much to me.
Bruh, I am humbly grateful to you for taking the time to do this. I'm gonna buzz you after we hang this up and see if I can hook up with you and
Well, yeah, we got to
get you a
hang
little
and get
something.
some barbecue or something, man. It'd be great.
Did you know I'm vegetarian?
Are you
I'm
really? You
vegetarian.
know what? There's some places where you can get some vegan stuff happening, some tofu or something. That's all right. We'll get you some meat crumbles and call it a day.
Bruh, I'm good with a nice salad with some fruits and nuts on it, man.
There you go. There you go. Well, brother, thank you so much again, man. This was so much fun. You have no idea. Thank you so much.
I'm humbly grateful. Thank you. God bless you and your household. Have a great night.
Hey, man, you have a good one, brother. Take
Thank
care.
you. Alrighty.
JD is he's the real deal. He's genuine and he's honest, and I'm very fortunate to call him a friend. This has been, and I've been thinking.